we're live. Welcome to Close Up with Jesus, guys. This is episode 13, I think. I am like 95% sure about that. Yeah, 13. I think it's 13. We'll find out. I'll find out later. Hi, just me today. Kelton is busy, so we're going to save the topic that was commented last time for next week so we can do it together, because that's going to be better than just doing it by ourselves. And today we are going to be talking about what is your thought process, right? The actual reason I thought about this topic was because I thought about a verse while with my classmates on a college field trip to the Watts Bar Dam, and I was thinking about John 3:16. Everybody knows John 3:16, right? Like, guys who are in the sanctuary, you know John 3:16, right? Say it. Okay. No. It's, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And I was thinking about that verse, and it's a really powerful verse, and we see it everywhere. It is absolutely everywhere in everybody trying to preach and teach and spread the gospel, right? But then I thought, do we know what 3:17 is, right? Do we know what 3:16 is, or 3:15, or John 3:18, right? And I was thinking about that, and it really hit me. Our thought process sometimes is really small, and we really are only thinking about one thing, but we need to open our mind more and think more about it. Like, verse 3:18 is also significantly important to verse 3:17. He that believeth on him is not condemned, but that believeth not. Sorry, 3:17, not 3:18. For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. Right? That verse holds equal importance to the previous verse. Then in verse 18, he that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he hath not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. Right? It's really important, but we don't study those. We don't remember those as well as John 3:16, because it's not spread as much. And that shows our thought process, right? Our thought process is, let me know the important bits, right, of Christianity so I can act like a Christian and say I'm a Christian, but I don't have to do the hard work, right? That's a thought process. That's the lazy thought process, and that's what a lot of Christians are today. We're getting lazy, which is weird to say because we're getting persecuted all the time. But in areas where we're not that persecuted, we get lazy, and it's really unfortunate, because then we see a whole bunch of evil and corruption take root because we're not doing what we're supposed to do, right? And then we see a different thought process, right? So that's the lazy thought process of we're not doing what we should be doing. We're just doing the surface level stuff so we can call ourselves a Christian. Then there is I like to call it like the Pharisee mindset, right? It's where you're acting like the Pharisees. The Pharisees act all, I'm holier than thou art, right? And when I think about that, I think back to Matthew chapter 22, verse 34. Because at this point, the Pharisees heard that they put the Sadducees to silence, right there in verse 34. So the Pharisees gathered together. And then verse 35, then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him and saying, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? He's trying to trick Jesus, right? He doesn't think he's master, but he's calling him master. And he's going, which is the greatest? Come on, you say you are great. You say you are the Son of God, so tell me, right? And then Jesus shows them they have the wrong mindset. What they're wanting to use for evil, God's going to use for good. And Jesus has a mindset of love, not of trickery and hatred, right? They hate Jesus, but he just loves them to bits. So he says this, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. goodness. Whew. Well, we see that. And he gives them the answer they want, but not satisfied with it. So while Jesus sees them gather together, he takes this chance to say, "What think ye of Christ, whose son is he? They say unto him, the son of David. He saith unto them, How then doth David in spirit call him Lord, saying, The Lord said unto my Lord, Sit thou on my right hand, till I make thine enemies thy footstool. If David then call him Lord, how is he his son? And no man was able to answer him a word, neither durst any man from that day forth ask him any more questions." So he loved them, right? They wanted to use this as a way to trick him and try to deceive him. And we talked about this on the youth retreat. We have a deceitful heart, right? They had a very deceitful heart, and they were trying to deceive Jesus. Jesus was like, I don't think so. He answered the question, and then he posed a greater question to them, and they hated that question so much that we're just not going to talk to him no more. No more questions. Don't ask him any more. We don't need to learn any more from this man, right? So we see there is that deceitful mindset. Then we have a hateful mindset, right? So we have the lazy mindset, which is surface level Christian stuff. I'm just going to act like a Christian. It doesn't even have to be that. You can just be, I'm lazing around the house all day doing nothing, right? But I'm relating it to doing the surface level Christian stuff. And then you have the mind of a Pharisee, where you're trying to deceive others and say, I'm holier than thou art. And those people, the Bible calls them false prophets, right? Because they're not doing it for God's glory. They're doing it for their own glory, not for the glory of God. But I want the credit, right? Well, Brother A says, we do the work, the church gets the credit, and God gets the glory, right? Brother A says that all the time, and I love that because that's what it should be. But the mind of a Pharisee goes, okay, I do a little bit of the work, I get all of the credit, and I get the glory, right? That's the mind of a Pharisee. And then we see a mind of hatred or vengeance, right? And we see in that same verse in Matthew 22 that Jesus says the second is likened unto the first. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, right? That's the second verse. Because our heart is wicked, right? It's deceitfully so. Gunnar, could you find that verse for me? I can't remember where it is. But it's the verse that says the heart is wicked above all things. But the Bible says that, and Gunner's going to find it for me. He's in the sanctuary. Our heart is wicked, right? It's full of vengeance. When someone hits us, we want to hit them back, right? We want to hit them twice as hard. We want to be rebellious. We want to be vengeful and have hatred, right? And I think he found it. You said 17? Thank you, buddy. He just found the verse for me. We'll read that. Jeremiah 17, verse 9. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, the Lord, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. As a partridge sitteth on eggs and hatcheth them not, so he that getteth riches and not by right shall leave them in the midst of his days, and at his end shall be a fool. Right? It just said there, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. It's not just wicked, it's desperate to be wicked. It wants to be with all its might to be wicked and to do evil things. And that's why when we're battling sin, right, and that's why we need God, is because it's so hard, because it's in us, ingrained in us. It's in the core of ourselves. And a person who has a very vengeful mindset, right, because we're talking about your thoughts, right, what is your thought process? People who have a very vengeful mindset are very hateful, right? I got a sister, and I love her to bits. I got two of them. I got three of them, really. But with two of them, it's a bit of a struggle. Both are getting better, and they both realize they had this kind of more hateful mindset, but they're working on it. And when they had this hateful mindset, when they would say something, they'd say it jokingly, right? Like, oh, you suck, ha, ha, ha. They wouldn't say that. It'd be worse than that, but they'd say stuff like that and hurt the people around them that they loved, but because of their mindset they had, right, for one reason or another, it caused them to be more hateful without even realizing it. And it took someone else to tell them, hey, It took my dad sitting down with one of them, or both of them really, and be like, hey, what you're saying isn't right. And once they realized it, and only once they realized it and they wanted to change, could they change. And that's what we have to think about, is when you have these mindsets, right, your thought process, and you have Jesus in you, you realize it's wrong, right? And sometimes you need a little extra push from somebody else. But in order for you to change your mindset, you have to want it. No one can change it for you, and it won't happen instantly. It takes time and is a process. It's not snap my fingers, it's done, right? It is small steps, right? It's reading your Bible every day. It's praying every day for God to help you with it. It's going to church every Sunday and every opportunity to get. Lucas, I love Lucas. He's awesome. Every chance he gets to go worship the Lord, he goes and takes it, and it's awesome. I love it so much. I just told him that earlier today. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Lucas. I see you. He's a little embarrassed. But it's awesome. But it's your thought process isn't something that happens instantly. I know I just said that, but the way we think is really interesting. And when you sit down and you think about it, you think about how you think about things. When you look at a kid, right? Brother Ace talked about this before. He looked at 4 pictures of kids and said, all right, that one wears glasses, that one has freckles, that one's hair is choppy, and that one's clothes are ugly. And he looked back and he thought, everything I thought about those people was negative, right? That was the thought process at the time. And he had to rethink, right? He had to sit down and really think about and really make an effort to change it. When you change your thought process, it's not one day you sit up and go, all right, I'm going to be doing this from now on, right? I'm going to say compliment to everybody every single day and not have a bad day ever, right? You can't do that. It takes time and it takes a lot of effort. But when you do it, it's so rewarding because at the end of that, you will feel better, right? Me and Kelton, when we were younger, we had way more aggressive mindset. I remember when I was really little, I got mad at Brother Ray, and I was balling my fist, and I was gonna punch him. And I was like, I don't remember this at all. But my dad remembers, and he got me, and he's like, "What are you doing?" It was, yeah. But we had a very aggressive mindset, right? And as we got older, we got more control of ourselves, but 2, we started to watch the older people around us, and this is why having a parental figure to look to and listen to is so important, is because they will teach you how to think, right? They help you and guide you. You are still your own person. You still have your own thoughts, right? But they'll be like, oh, wait, don't say that, because when you say that, this is why you shouldn't, right? Like, you shouldn't say that word because it's going to hurt their feelings and it can cause harm or trip your brother, right? And when you do that, it took a while, but we grew into, I think, pretty good-looking fellas, but also, thank you, but also our thought process is no longer aggressive and it's no longer negative. We have bad days where we're like, oh, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to any of you. You suck, right? But I'd say about 97% of the time, we're pretty nice. And I try really hard to be nice and be uplifting to people because we have enough negativity in the world. And that's not saying you shouldn't preach about hell. Brother Ray talked about this Sunday, right? It's not saying you shouldn't preach about hell. Plenty of God's messages, right? Jesus talking, he's preached messages that were negative. That's not saying there shouldn't be any negative messages. But we shouldn't be putting each other down, right? I shouldn't walk up to my brother Gunnar and go, you suck. I wish you were dead, right? I shouldn't say that. That's awful. I should say, hey, brother, I love you. How was your day? Did you have a good day? And if you didn't, I'd be like, oh, that sucks. Let's go get some ice cream or something, right? Try to lift his spirits, try to make him better. Your goal isn't to tear other people down. Your thought process shouldn't be, all right, how can I build myself up, right? How can I take from people around me to bring myself higher, right? In the church or in the business or in political things, right? It shouldn't be that. It's how should I lift others up? How can I help other people, right? In whatever arena that may be. I think that's it for me. I don't have Kelton here, so it's only like half as long as it normally is, but I'm kind of talking to myself, so it's fine. I pray you all have a wonderful rest of your week. We will see you at 7 o'clock Wednesday. Be there. Be there. Comment any questions you have. If you have a question about what I talked about, or if I didn't explain something enough, I will gladly go back and look at it. I might be a little slow because I don't have a phone that's broken, but I'll do it as fast as I can. Comment questions you want for future episodes. We'll get those ready. For the person, and Brittany, for you, we're going to do your comment you posted next week. Next week's topic is, what does God say about forgiveness? So you can be mulling over that while we are getting ready to discuss it. All right. Y'all have a blessed week.